Welcome to the Middle East Forum's webinar and podcast series, Israel Insider, this week with Nave Dromi. I'm Stacey Roman, and I will be moderating this discussion today. We're pleased to have Nave Dromi, who oversees the Middle East Forum's Israel Victory Project, join us this week to update us on all the events going on in Israel. Nave will be giving us a briefing on current Israeli affairs for 15 minutes, then open it up for questions. Should you wish to ask a question, please use the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen to type your question. And with that, I will turn the discussion over to Nave Dromi.
Hi, Stacey. Thank you for the presentation. We've met here, I think, a month ago. It was in the beginning of the elections period. Now we are in the last day of each party or each list to submit the list of people that the list of the names of people that are going to be in the party, which is a candidate in the elections. I think that since today they are submitting the names and the list, tomorrow will be the formal beginning of the elections. You will see more battles between the parties itself and less battles inside the parties. Some of the parties are just now submitting their final names. You could see that the biggest parties, Likud and Yesh Atid, waited until the last day to submit the names. Some would say it's a tactic of the heads of the parties to minimize the battles inside the parties. So, for example, Yesh Atid published their list of names just yesterday. The Likud list is known for a while, but only now they are publishing the names of the 3 or 4 people that the head of the party is saving them seats. There are 4 seats in the Likud that the head of the Likud can put whoever he wants there. And they say it only today, Yesh Atid was tomorrow. But I want to try and do something else and take you to some of the smallest parties and how they are handling these very difficult times for them. It's not easy. I mean, some would say a bigger party, the names and in the places are not so important, even though I'm not sure it's true. But something is happening in the small parties, and I think in Israel it's very interesting because if you followed the last 2 years with we are now in the 5th elections in 2 years, but if you follow them, then you could see that many times the small parties are the one that in the end decide what will be. And Naftali Bennett had only 6 seats in the last government, and he somehow became the prime minister. Now people saying that Ayelet Shaked might be the one, and Ayelet Shaked is not even going through the minimized seats of the threshold. You need to have 4 mandats to be counted. She's not even there. But some political correspondents saying that she will decide what will happen. So it's very interesting to see the small parties. I think I will save maybe the most interesting story to the end. Stacey, if you could start screen the PowerPoint, I'd be grateful. Thank you. So this is just, I was trying to think what will be interesting and not to speak about the names that we all know and that we are all familiar with. So for example, I mentioned Ayelet Shaked before. So today, Ayelet Shaked announced that number 4 in her party is Nitzana Darshan Leitner. This is the first face that you will see. Nitzana, I don't know, she works in the US a lot. She is the CEO of an organization called Shurat Adin, which, if I speak about what I do daily, the Israel Victory Project, then Nitzana would be some of the people that definitely symbolize victory when it comes to the legal system and how to how to gain a victory over the Palestinians in the legal area. It's very interesting. I don't think Nitzana is very religious. Maybe she's traditional, I'm not sure. But it's interesting in the Ayelet Shaked case because she's trying to take people from different views. Number two, Yossi Brodny, which is a name that no one in Israel, I mean, almost no one in Israel knew about a month ago. He is the mayor of a small religious town named Givat Moel, and he is number two of Ayelet Shaked. Nitzana is number four, and it's very interesting to see that he's doing the movement, which many people are doing, from an NGO to the political life. Nitzana is taking a risk because, as I said before, Ayelet Shaked now gets in some of the polls it's 2%, some of them it's 1.7%, but for now she's not going through the threshold of the 4 seats. The next person, and I guess that none of you know it, you will see her face in the end. She's a young girl. Her name is Adar Mukhtar. In some of the polls, she gets more votes than Ayelet Shaked, which is amazing. If you would see the story of this young girl, Adar Mukhtar, and Ayelet Shaked, it's an amazing to see how both of them are in the same level. Ayelet Shaked was a minister. She is now the interior minister. And I took Adar Mukhtar because everyone in Israel speaking about her and wondering if she is curious, if she is something serious. And what she did about 2 days ago created the mini storm. She did something, it's a political gimmick, but I mean, this was published in a Haredi streets, saying that Hadar Mukhtar is a threat to the Haredi world, and the people should be aware of her. And what was interesting, just to give you a taste of the political life in Israel, if you could move to the next photo, you will see that the girl that hanging these photos, which saying that Hadar Mukhtar is a threat to the Haredi world, is a person from her party, from Hadar Mukhtar party. And in the next photo, you would see that Hadar Mukhtar is printing the papers that calling her a threat for the Haredi world. So this is something I thought would be interesting to show you how sometimes things are working. I said I would keep the last, the most interesting thing, which is also from the last hours and gaining a lot of interest because it's affecting a very familiar and well-known party in Israel, Israel Beitenu of Avigdor Lieberman. And the next girl that you will see with Naftali Bennett, her name is Stella Weinstein. And she was the CEO of Yamina until not too long ago. During the war in Ukraine, in the beginning, she opened like an operation room, a civilian operation room, helping to refugees from Ukraine to get shelter in Israel. She's from Ukraine, if I remember correctly. But what's interesting that she announced that she is going to establish a party which will turn to the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union voters. As you know, in Israel, there is a big crowd from former Soviet Union. Many of them, especially those, the oldest one, are usually voting to Avigdor Lieberman, which is one of the most well-known politicians. He is now the economic minister. Definitely someone that know every trick in the book. And usually, Every time people say that Lieberman, it's the end, it doesn't have enough votes, and always, Lieberman succeed. And is one of the key players in the recent years in politics. And if I mentioned before the small parties, which have a lot of weight, definitely a Victor Lieberman party is the head of one of these parties. Israel Beitenu, even though it's only 6 mandates, 7, they have a lot of power. What's interesting is that now, due to the war between Ukraine and Russia, some of the political correspondents saying that the former Soviet Union voters are disappointed because they wanted Lieberman to take a more aggressive approach toward Russia. Lieberman answer will be that it's not true. And like always in politics, there are two coins, but what's interesting is that in some of the polls, Lieberman is on 4 seats, which is something that we didn't see in the past years. And now Stella Weinstein saying that she is establishing a party which trying to get these votes. I wouldn't be surprised if this party of Stella Weinstein would be something that grew up in the heads of some of Victor Lieberman rivals. You could see how people sometimes doing things, establishing parties or trying to split between parties in order to affect the other camp. But this is interesting because if Lieberman is really on the 4 mandates and Stella Weinstein gets even half a mandate, then it might be risky for Lieberman for the first time. And also Lieberman, which once was very close to Aryeh Deri from Shas. So in the recent years, Shas is the Haredi party, the Sfaradi Haredi party. If they were very close in the past, now they don't speak with each other. So the chances for them to sit in the same government is very low. So things are so fragile. A small party like Stella Weinstein, I don't think she even believes she will get in the Knesset, she will go through the threshold, but I do think that she believes that if she will gain half a mandate, she destroy it to Lieberman itself. And then this is it more or less. I thought this time to speak about closing of the lists of the parties and about the small parties, which might have effect on the entire system. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, thank you so much. So we have a couple questions coming in. Murray Feldman asks, please comment on the statement by the head of Mossad regarding the biggest danger to Israel's internal politics, if you could.
Again?
Could you please comment on the statement by the head of Mossad regarding the biggest danger to Israel is internal politics?
I think you mean the head of Shabak. There is Shabak and there is a Mossad. The head of the Mossad is Dadi Barnea, and he's focusing on Iran right now, and he didn't have any comment on inner political issues. Ronen Bar, the head of the Shabak, said about a week ago that the Palestinians and the terror organization, they see the split in the Israeli society, and what he said basically that the arguments in Israel in the society affect the terror organizations. I wrote an article about it. I said I think it's a mistake. First of all, I think that someone who is responsible for the security, and Shabak, this is their main job, to be responsible for the security and to take care of the victory of Israel and to make sure that we win the Palestinians, dealing with social issues. The Shabak is not a social organization. There are NGOs to do it, to deal with it, to speak about the connection between secular and non-secular and left-wing and right-wing. This is not something for the head of the Shabak. I think he made a mistake, and he also got criticized from both sides of the political camp, saying that the people who are responsible for the security should deal with the security, just like people that deal with the health should deal with the health.
Thank you so much for that. Len Getz asks, please explain how Ayelet Shaked could make a difference if in the end her party does not pass the threshold.
If Ayelet Shaked does not pass the threshold, but she does take 3 mandates, then those 3 mandates that could go to the right-wing camp, dividing between, I don't know, some of the other parties, then those 3 mandates are lost. No one can use them. There is no party that can use it for whatever. So this is how it affects the political system. There are some voices calling her to quit. I don't know what she'll do in the last days. You can see a very aggressive campaign from her side saying that her heart is in the right-wing camp and that she made a mistake. I don't know if it will help her, but back to your question, if she runs till the end and she does get 3 mandates, which is not enough, then she loses 3 mandates that will have no use.
You go a little further into depth about the mandates and losing them, as well as just the smaller parties like you were talking about. What exactly do they gain by running and taking the mandates from other parties?
And they get recognition, they get people to speak about them. Some people, some of the people are trying to connect with each other. For example, Eli Avidar, which was in Israel Beitenu, left Israel Beitenu, and he offered Adar Mukhtar to join him so they can run together. It didn't work out, she didn't want, but I think what people get is that they feel that they doing what they believe in and that they have support for what they believe in. And that, sometimes also the media has a role in that. This girl, Adar Mukhtar, which gets right now sometimes 1.5 or 2 mandates, she gets interviews a lot. People inviting her for studios and to channels and speak with her because, sometimes, I would say it's filling the blank spaces in TV. You have to interview someone, she can be provocative and it will get a lot of views and likes on Facebook and Twitter. So there are different reasons why to do it. You can run because you believe in what you do, or you can run because you want to be familiar. Each one for his reasons, I guess.
So specifically with Weinstein and Lieberman. So Weinstein is running to hopefully take some mandates from Lieberman, so that way Lieberman won't cross the threshold, correct?
This is what she's saying. Just to make sure, this is not like correspondent of me. She spoke against Lieberman in many times, and I think this is what she's hoping for. And again, this is my interpretation, but I think that someone wants her to run and to take some votes from Lieberman. I don't know. Politics is something very, very tricky, and you gain people that don't. You gain enemies. To be very straightforward. Netanyahu gained many enemies. Lieberman gained many enemies. Lapid, Aryeh Deri, everyone has enemies. So if you gain enemy, then sometimes the enemy trying to take you down. And I think in this case, I don't know Stella Weinstein so well. I'm not familiar with the details, but I do believe that there are people who has interest to take votes from Lieberman and to take them to someone else. By the way, there were stories about how in the Ashkenazi Haredim, they united only about 1 day ago, until about 2 days ago, in the Ashkenazi Haredim, there was a split, and there was a fear in their camp that they won't run together, and then they will lose mandates. And then someone said that there is other politician that created the split in order for this camp to lose votes. So there is politics everywhere.
Sounds like a game of Survivor. All right. Len Getz follows up. So could you please explain then how you do acquire mandates? How exactly does that process come about?
What do you mean? How do you gain mandates? How do you?
Yeah, sitting from outside the country. So it's a little confusing. Can you break it down?
So
How does one
basically,
gain a mandate?
a mandate is like a certain amount of people that voted for you. For example, 3 mandates, if I'm not mistaken, is almost less than 300,000 votes. So I mean, it's mathematics. I mean, it's mathematics. You need to know the numbers, but basically it's votes. For example, 1 mandate, it's X voters. 2 mandate, it's X plus 2 voters, and so on and so on. But for 4 mandates, you don't need a lot of votes, and still, I mean, 4 mandates, here's the threshold you need to be counted as a party that still play the game. If you don't have the 4 mandates, then you didn't pass the threshold and you are out of the game. And the people that vote for you, their votes are not being counted. If someone votes for you and you don't have the 4 mandates, then his vote, he's gone. And this is why some of the parties that in the polls are not going through the threshold are in problem, because people don't want to vote for a party which in the polls doesn't go through the threshold, because they're afraid that their vote will be lost. They went to the poll, they voted, and then nothing. So every time that there are polls in the evening in the news where you see Ayelet Shaked or someone else below the threshold, then Ayelet Shaked knows that she might lose voters that will see it and won't participate. I mean, won't go to vote for her because they wouldn't like their votes to be lost. I hope it answered your question.
Thank you so much.
And I don't want to confuse you. I'm not sure how many votes are 1 mandate. I can check it if you want to.
Okay, that makes sense. Barak Korkmaz asks, do you expect a showdown between Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Israel, or a civil war in Lebanon, Shia versus Sunni communities possible?
To be honest, I'm not an expert for Lebanon. This is, I mean, I would ask someone that understands, and I'm sure that MEF has people that understands better than myself. I think that Hezbollah and Nasrallah are gaining more strength or more confident in the last years. You would see that, I mean, I've seen that, for example, I mean, around the story with the gas in the north, that there is a fight between Israel and Lebanon over a location of natural gas. And for a few, I mean, there was 1 or 2 times that Nasrallah sent a Katbam which I don't know what's the name in English. It's kind of a technologic intelligence tool, and he sent it to Israel, and Israel didn't respond. Which, if I understand Nasrallah a bit, he see weakness in it. And what will happen, I don't know. But if you would listen to some Israelis from the security establishment, they're speaking about the third Lebanon war. We'll see. We'll see. I hope Israel would be prepared to the next war.
Thank you. Gary Hillebrand asks, is it known to what extent Russia may be withdrawing personnel and/or equipment from Syria to redirect to the Ukraine?
Again?
Is it known to what extent Russia may be withdrawing personnel and/or equipment from Syria to redirect to Ukraine?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. I mean,
No problem. And right now, is most of the news in Israel just focused on the upcoming elections, or is there any other big news that we should know about?
most of it elections and things around it are, I mean, for obvious reasons, are being used for the elections. For example, the prices, the economy. The prices are getting very high. Some of it because in the entire world, I guess all the prices are going high. Some of it because Israel is very, its economical policy still have leftovers from a socialist point of view. You would see, I mean, I don't know how interesting it is, but in Israel, for example, you can't bring cheese from other countries. Some of the cheese you can bring from other countries. There is only one electrical company in Israel. So there are inner problems that are, in my opinion, causing these issues, but also global issues that affect it. So this is somehow affect the public, and also you can see it in the elections. And you can see politicians corresponding to it. For example, the price of the gas, which was very high, almost 8 shekels, about 1 month ago, is now 6 shekels, 2 shekels less, which is significant. For example, I don't know, the price of the pasta went higher, or the price of the bread went higher. And in Israel, again, you can't, there is a supervision on the price of bread. Some of the bread is under a supervised price. So you could see that when some of the companies wanted to take more money for the bread, the government got involved and kept the supervised price, even though there were some people who said, don't interfere, let the market do itself. The price of the bread will be lower if the government won't be involved. But the politicians got involved because, as I see it, it's election time. So you don't want to take a risk.
Yeah, laissez-faire versus price caps. All right. So going into the elections, now that the infighting is pretty much subsided, what are the big issues that the people of Israel are looking for from their politicians?
To be honest, I think in Israel today, unfortunately, the discourse is not about the cost of living. It's more about security than cost of living. But in the end of the day, it's still the argument about Netanyahu. I think this is what leads people the most when they go to vote.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We've come to the close of our webinar. Nave, thank you for taking time to update us this week.
Thank you for having me.
course. For our viewers and listeners, please join us Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern for a webinar with Alexandre Gadzari discussing Iran's pawn wreaking havoc throughout the Fertile Crescent. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day.